With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I'm Fahima Mohammed, your host, as well as a relationship and couples coach. Welcome all of you watching from around the globe and across social media, streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on Sky TV's Channel 752. I am so excited to have all of you here today for another Single Muslim Live show. We have amazing guests, different topics, and tonight's no different. You are more than welcome to join in the conversation by calling into the studio directly to speak to myself or my guests with any questions, comments, or any queries that you have for tonight. And the number is 01924 231 083. Do not forget that standard network rates do apply, so do ask the bill payer's permission. Or alternatively, you could WhatsApp us for free on 07950797017, and we can take any of your messages anonymously if you choose to do so. Tonight, we're talking about Western influence on Islamic marriage today. I think it's a really interesting topic. And with me to enjoy this amazing conversation and to add to the discussion, I have a guest all the way from the United States in New York. We have Farwah Ali Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum, Farwah.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm so excited to have you today. I'm really happy, actually, and I've been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time, and really pleased that you're joining us all the way from New York. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I am really well, and it's an amazing night, but for you, it's in the afternoon. You've just rushed from work, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Farwah. Really, really love it. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself before we start the conversation and the topic?
Yeah, of course. So, salam everybody. My name is Farwah Sheikh. I am a research nutritionist by day, but I am a podcaster by night. And I also am actually a mind-body soul coach, which I tapped into recently after going through a journey with just Spill the Chai, my podcast, realizing a lot about myself and a lot about the needs of the community. So my podcast is a comedy podcast. And then my mind, body, soul coaching is also something I do to help people transform and elevate their energy. So it's really nice to meet everyone.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I know that you talk a bit about relationships as well. And that's what caught my eye, actually, because you sort of spin it in a funny way, but actually you do address some really serious issues, which is happening in our community. And especially being in the West, I think we have the perfect combination tonight with me being in the UK and you being in the USA. We cannot be any Western than that. And being Muslim and having these kind of challenges, being single. And what is it like for you to be single in a Western society? Let's just start there. What is it that your peers, your colleagues, your friends, your family, what are they talking about? What is it like for a young single Muslim in the West? And tell me your story, Farwah.
Yeah, of course. So, it's a loaded question. Being single in the West is such a fascinating journey. I don't think anyone understands, unless you're a single Muslim in the West, what you go through. You're faced with home obligations, right? Like traditional ways of thinking. And then you're faced with the Western world, which is, for me, being born and raised on the Upper West Side of New York, I grew up with a lot of diversity, a lot of different kinds of people. And then that comes with a lot of different cultural beliefs and religious beliefs. So, growing up, I was always raised on the conservative side. I am liberal, But, I was raised to be like, you don't have a relationship before marriage. You don't, just have a boyfriend because you feel like it. And so, all of these things, but then you go to school and, everyone's like, has a boyfriend, a girlfriend, holding hands, moving in together. It's so casual, right? Like the relationships between opposite genders in the Western world. And then we have like the Islamic world where you're like, wait, you're not allowed to do this. You can't do this. You can't do that. And so it's really about navigating like with authenticity, being a Western Muslim. How do you stay close to deen without compromising the dunya? And that's something that I feel like a lot of Western Muslims are currently facing.
Wow, that's really fascinating. And the fact that you raised that, you are actually aware of the differences. A lot of people do have this identity crisis as to where do they place their faith, their religion, as well as their identity of being, a Westerner at the same time. How would you sort of, assist somebody through that? Or how did you manage that yourself? I mean, we can have more than one identity, as we say, but we can call ourselves differently. But when it comes to our behaviors and our actions, there are certain boundaries and there's certain lines you don't cross. So how would you sort of explain to a single Muslim in the West that is trying to, embody and integrate in the Western society, but also encompassing their actual, values, especially when it comes to our Islamic faith? How would you kind of, address that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So something I noticed from a very young age is that you're going to stand out as a Muslim, right? Like if you wear hijab, that's like the number one, like bing, bing, bing. If you're a guy, you're I'm not saying you're wearing a beard, sorry, you have a beard, and that sets you apart already. But what you have to do is you have to be very authentic with yourself and authentic with the people around you. Currently, what a lot of the Western Muslims are facing is the influence of social media. And I've talked about this a lot on my podcast in the past, but because we're seeing so many things normalized, it's causing us to really blur the lines of what's acceptable Islamically and what is not. And in turn, that's causing a lot of Muslims to feel like Islam is like oppressive or it's so strict and it's not fair. But what I want to echo to the Western Muslim is that you have to really understand who you are, and you have to understand why you follow Islam and what it teaches you. Because of so many young people having an identity crisis, it's really being caused by one, being kind of forced to practice Islam, right? Like, and I'm not saying anyone is forced to practice it. What I'm saying is when your parents came from whatever respective country they came from, their sole job or their obligation was that they wanted to make sure you preserve the religion and the culture. Now, with that, it may have been that they were so scared they were going to lose you that they kind of like push it on you so strongly that you're like, okay, I guess I have to do this. I have to pray 5 times a day. Okay, I'm not allowed to have a girlfriend. I'm not allowed to have a boyfriend. And then you go out of your sheltered world, and you may go to university or college or whatever you guys call it out there, A levels, O levels. The UK is a little different from us. But then suddenly, you have all these people taking interest in you, talking to you, and then you start to get confused on what you believe in. And because you don't understand Islam from a factual standpoint, you start to let the influence of the outside world affect you. And so then you start to kind of slither away, and then it's very easy for you to kind of fall into this, oh, well, it's okay to move in with someone before marriage, or like, oh, it's okay, to have a boyfriend. It's not like, I'm getting married, I'm just getting to know somebody. And so a lot of the issues that I'm seeing is just like knowing who you are, being authentic, and following the religion according to your own findings and understandings. Because there's a beautiful hadith or quote by Imam Ali that says, don't inherit your religion, learn it. And that's such a powerful statement, because it's very obvious most Muslims inherit their religion, and what happens is culture gets very mixed in there, and then people don't know the difference between culture and religion, and that's what causes a lot of turmoil within the home, then within the Western friend circles that you have, and then an identity crisis within yourself. And so know who you are, and we know that other famous hadith or quote, which is, to know yourself is to know your Lord. When you understand who Allah is and the divine power and the divine essence of the universe within you, then you're able to come to a place and be so authentic and show up in the world unshakable. And that's something, alhamdulillah, that I've been blessed with which is I really understand who I am, and I'm still learning about myself, but it's allowed me to stand in the Western world very proud of being a Muslim that's abiding by, the rules as closely as I can. No one is perfect. I mean, I'm definitely somebody who makes a ton of mistakes, but what I'm saying is once you understand yourself, what being a Muslim means, then you're able to function in the Western world with grace and with ease and without any pressures. And if you do face any pressures, you're able to understand how you can work around them.
Wow, that is so powerful, so enlightening, and to hear such a young, amazing, smart, talented voice to actually say this. This is what we need to see, is young Muslim role models in the West speaking like this. I'm blown away, Farwah, by your stance right now and you being so young and having this kind of mindset. And I'm so happy to have you here on the show, actually. I'm going to go more into it. We're going to obviously have a break shortly, but I just want to sort of echo what you've just said. It's so important that even with the social media influences, which we constantly blame, it's so important that we actually know ourselves very well. It is very difficult, though, when you're growing up in the West and you're still trying to figure it out. And like you said, when it comes to the parents, trying to be quite protective over somebody, it can be very difficult to sort of navigate, to have that sort of balance within the Western influence, which is completely opposite to what our Islamic beliefs and faith is. So we are going to go into break in a few seconds. However, I just want to say that the show is absolutely amazing. We have an amazing guest tonight who is able to take some of your questions, who's gone through the struggles. And if you did want to call in, please do so. The number's at the bottom of your screen, as well as we will be back shortly after a break. But before we go, I just want to remind you as well that this show is to help you through your struggles and challenges for being a single Muslim. We raise these issues only to help you, only to make sure that we can actually give some real advice and guidance so that we can make your journey a lot more easier and simpler. And hopefully we will be back with the next part of the episode. Please do stay tuned and we will see you shortly after the break. Make sure that you call us and hopefully I get to hear some of your voices. Take care and we'll see you in a short seconds.
With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by singlemuslim.com. We're here live tonight and we have our guests all the way from New York, USA, discussing Western influence on Islamic marriage today. We have a very young, talented, amazing mindset tonight who is talking about her experience and how the struggles are of being a Westerner, as well as, having these Islamic values. We discussed this before the break, and we're just going to continue. Farwah, when you were talking about you striving towards your faith, now tell me, how difficult is it for youngsters? Because as you said, you are blessed to be able to have that kind of capacity, the ability to break through those barriers of, the Western influences. But what are these Western influences? Let's go into it. Let's just talk a little bit more as to what are people really faced with when it comes to the actual struggles of, the Western influence. Is it all bad, or is it something that, sometimes we could even learn in our society so that we can actually bring forward some good things and it's not all negative? What is your thoughts on this?
Yeah, growing up in the West is an amazing experience. I love it. I mean, I am the classic definition of a New Yorker that you could ever meet. I love my bagels and cream cheese. I love my cheesy pizza. I love my black coffee in the morning. I'm not really into the Subway anymore because of COVID, but before that, I was like all about it. Like it brings me life. It brings me life. Like, New York is just such a, for me, being in New York specifically, it's such an amazing place. Like I said, there's so much diversity. And, in the Quran, it says, we have created you in tribes so that you may get to know one another. Being in another country and being Muslim is actually a blessing because you actually really get to understand who you are, because you get to see so many different versions of people and so many different kinds of religions and cultures that you're exposed to. And being in a Muslim country, it's amazing because you are surrounded by the faith, you're surrounded by people who won't question you, like, why do you wear hijab, or like, why do you pray, or why do you do whatever. But you can become numb to the, Islamic lifestyle. And I know when I go to like Turkey or Morocco or wherever, it's so cool for me to hear the azan 5 times a day. I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. In New York, you just hear like Subway and screeching like cabs and whatever. But, there has the pros and cons to both. But then there are a lot of things that Western Muslims do face it's really difficult to look away from, right? Like growing up, I was constantly faced with people offering me to do drugs, right? Like marijuana. When I got to college, there was a lot of kids doing ecstasy, a lot of kids doing meth. And I'm being very open because this is the truth, right? A lot of the parents send their kids to school thinking like, oh, this is a good neighborhood, my kid is safe. The truth is that a lot of our youth are being faced with decisions every day that are becoming normalized amongst not only Muslims, but are very normal amongst non-Muslims, like drinking, right? A lot of cultures, drinking is a part of their culture. And then, Muslims will go to college and suddenly drinking is like the number one thing that everyone is doing. So now you're kind of faced with this situation where you don't have your parents around, you don't have any family or any cousins or whatever, and everyone is now going out to the bars or now going out to the clubs and getting drunk or getting high, and then engaging in premarital relationships. And you're just like standing there and everyone's like, oh, like just try it. Why not? It's just one time. No one's going to know. I was faced with that all the time. Like I had people be like, Farwah, you should just like taste alcohol. Like what's the big deal? Or like, why don't you just get high once? What's the big deal? And that's when that conversation I spoke about earlier about being authentic to who you are is so important. Because when you are confident in who you are, no one can disrespect you. Because when I would go out with my friends, I was the only one who did not drink or smoke. And when they did get drunk, the first thing they would say to me is, Farwah, I respect you so much because you did not break, even though we were shoving things in your face. And they would be like, you know what? I actually respect you. And I'm kind of jealous that you have this much willpower and that you're this, outgoing without the need of anything to make you outgoing. So when you think,
I love what you've just said. Unfortunately, we do have, I have to interrupt you, that's why, but we do have a caller online. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. What would you like to say? You're live on British Muslim TV.
Oh, yes. Hi. I would just like to actually say really enjoying the show today.
Thank you.
And as usual, very good comments and, and a good, guest today, which I love, amazing listening to her. I just wanted to say it is so true, like living in the Western world, you've got to be very strong in your religion. And the Western world does teach us a lot of good things as well. So I think first and foremost, it's very important to go, to be totally into the religion before culture. And a lot of people do the culture before the religion. So it's not a bad thing, the culture, because that's what, our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents did. But foremost is the actual religion. And to, be in schools and colleges these days, you need actually to be very strong to not accept or do what the others are doing. So you've got to do your own research and what you are happy with and what you are pleased with. So I think this is, first and foremost.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I really love everything that you've said. You kind of echoed what Farwah has said. Thank you so much for your call, by the way. Love it that the fact that we have the safe space for people to call in and speak. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you there, Farwah, but you know what? I love the fact that we have guests that call in and they feel safe to call in, to comment, and to actually resonate with you. And everything that you just said was so true. And I'm so glad that you've highlighted this, because we don't speak about it enough, that the actual challenges that are faced. It's very easy to say, oh, be strong and have your religion. But these sort of things that happen are really, really intense. And it just goes to show that we need more support from our parents. It means more support from our community leaders and members. And even just, having that friendship group doesn't mean that you have to be completely away from it. But this is everyday life, like you just mentioned. I mean, I was just listening to you in awe as to how much you have just opened up. Even I remember in my past being the only one that would be sitting there and not smoking, not drinking, and, thinking that, is this the way it's going to be with, constant pressure. And even when it's in college and university, as well as when you go to work, you feel sometimes that you're left out. You're not even going to be sitting in a business deal because that's where they're going to do their deals. It's in the pub, or go into a bar and have a discussion, or have these friendship groups. I mean, it's real stuff out there, and it's not easy. And I know that you're saying that we have to have a strong mindset. How do you gain that confidence, especially at a young age? It's so difficult when you're actually, especially when you're teenagers and you're in school, you want to have these friendship groups. You want to obviously be part of society, as well as, keep your own. How do you manage that? What is it that you did that you could share with us tonight?
Yeah, no. So how do I want to start this? First, I want to say that if you did do one of these things that we've talked about, whatever it may be, drinking, smoking, whatever, do not feel ashamed of what you've done. Because the one thing I did growing up is I constantly questioned. Do not be scared to question your religion and what you believe in, because that is going to bring you the answer that you're looking for to be more authentic to yourself. And that's what I did. I honestly questioned everything. And like the caller who called in, thank you for saying that, right? Like, religion is so important. Being in the West is also a great benefit, but you have to understand that questioning who you are is a part of life, and no one has it figured out. People are 70 and have an awakening and don't even know who they are. So if you're young and you're facing these turmoils of like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Question why you want to do it. Question, what is the benefit? What are you going to get out of it? You're going to feel cool for 30 minutes. You're also not going to remember what happened. Guess what? No one's going to remember what happened either. So if you drank or not, no one's going to remember. You have the ability to stand up and walk away from whatever situation you're in. And like I said, confidence is key. And how you build confidence is sitting with yourself and reflecting on what the meaning of your life is and what you want to accomplish. And are these dunya things going to bring you happiness or just temporary band-aid, right? And I've talked about this in the past about social media. It releases dopamine. Anything that causes an addiction, drugs, alcohol, now social media is being classified in that same bubble. Gambling, all of those things, they release dopamine in your brain, and that just makes you feel good for a temporary amount of time, but then you want it more and more and more. So you have to find a healthy way to channel out what you want, but it all starts with understanding who you are. And for me, that's been through, honestly, prayer, meditation, questioning, asking why do we believe this? Why do we pray 5 times a day? And also one thing I want to say that I was supposed to say earlier is that Allah is forgiving and He's merciful. Don't feel like if you did something wrong, there's no coming back from it. We need our community members, families, and religious leaders to understand, do not shame anybody who may have gone down a path that they were finding difficulty going down, or they did it because they didn't understand who they were. Instead, accept them and help guide them. because the greatest sin is thinking that Allah is not going to forgive you. He is going to forgive you. He is the most forgiving and the most merciful. And so if you have done certain things, it's okay. We all know that Allah has created repenting, asking for forgiveness, and then find your way from there through questioning, because there is an answer for everything. You just have to find the courage to ask.
Wow, that's brilliant. I love that. And it's so true, especially when we understand the mind, the body, and the habits that we create. It's so true. We think that we're going to, do something and it's just the once. But like you said, it's going to, create that addiction. It's going to create that habit that can be quite detrimental. And on the other point that you mentioned, it's so true that if we do fall into these kinds of, negative behaviors, we can definitely forgive ourselves and understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there to also forgive us, as long as we're striving to do better and be better. It's really important that we understand this. And we are coming again to another short break, but when we come back, we will be taking more callers and questions. And I hope that you do stay tuned so that we can actually continue with this conversation with your involvement, because it's really important that you do actually participate. It is your show. It is all here for you to help you make it easier on your journey. So inshallah, please join us back after the short break, and hopefully we'll be taking some of your questions and calls, and we will continue with Farwah, who is giving us amazing, amazing insights. We'll see you shortly, and have a cup of tea and be ready to join our next session in the next show. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, SingleMuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're having an amazing conversation and it's going by so quickly. And I love the fact that all of you are taking part. And we do have a caller waiting online. So I'd like to go to you first before we join our guest, Farwah, all the way from New York. So Assalamu alaikum, how are you? You're live on British Muslim TV. What would you like to say? Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
What would you like to say?
Oh, hi, am I on the show?
Yes, you are. You're live. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Marwa, and I just want to say I love the discussion today. It's just so relatable.
Thank you.
Especially like how Farwah was saying, if you're in the wrong sort of group of friends, then you're so much more likely to end up being influenced. And every day I thank Allah that I have been given such amazing friends, like a group of friends that always, make me go the right path. So it's always so important to have the right friends. But I just wanted to say, I love the topics that you come up with, Fahima. It's just so relatable, and you're doing amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marwa. Lovely to hear your voice. And inshallah, we hope to hear from you soon. And we really appreciate the comments and the calls as well. This show only happens because of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night. Wow, we have amazing callers tonight. They definitely feel, that they can relate, they can resonate. And, I'm loving your conversation. And you know what, the viewers are definitely getting that from you too, Farwah. As we were talking before the break, it's so important that we do have, the kind of right mindset. And obviously our friends do influence us. When it comes to relationships though, how do you feel that the West is now coming into the way in which we traditionally may get married or look for spouses? How is that becoming a problem at this very moment in time, especially for, getting married in the West? How difficult is it? And what is your experience of that?
Oh my God, this is like the hot topic of the night. Now we're getting warmed up. So the Western world and dating and marriage is probably the most difficult conversation that you could ever have, because everyone has their own definition of what Muslim dating is and what marriage is. And I think, so from my experience, it's extremely difficult. I'm not saying I was in an illusion, but I was in an illusion when I was in university that like soon as I get my degree, it'll be so easy to get married, and like 1, 2, 3, when I'm ready, you know, Prince Charming's gonna be like right there at Starbucks, like ready to pay for my order. But let's be real, there is no guy waiting for me at Starbucks except the barista who knows my order by heart now. And so it's really one of those things where you're raised to just think, you know, school, job, marriage, kids. Now, when you throw in the Western part of it, it becomes very, very tangled. We now have, well, we've always had matchmakers. We've had family, you know, friends who try to get you matched up. Now, the biggest, you know, way of meeting people is either on a dating app or on social media. And this has been causing a lot of issues because now there's no more accountability. And that accountability was something that helped marriages solidify and actually happen in the past. And now it's so easy to go on a dating app, continue conversation with someone for a few weeks to a few months, and then you get ghosted. And then
that is so
right?
true. Absolutely. And we're going to come back right to that point, but we do have another caller online. They really are amazing tonight. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to British Muslim TV. You're live. What would you like to say?
Hello, assalamu alaikum. So my question is, so obviously, you know, as much as we try to not be, you know, influenced by the Western society that we live in, and even at times when we think that we aren't, I feel as though it's inevitable that a part of our mind does or has been influenced by what we see on TV, by the things that we see around us. It would, you know, it's only natural that we are, even if we don't realize it. So what tips do you have to help us sort of come back to the Islamic side of marriage and not be so influenced by Western ideology of what marriage should be like?
Lovely question. Thank you so much for calling in. And I really appreciate that. That's a beautiful question. Thank you so much. What's your thoughts on that, Farwah? How to come back to the deen, even with what you see, what you're around, all the environments, all the influences? Very good question.
Yeah, no, amazing question. So first and foremost, like I've been talking about earlier, really sit with yourself and understand who you are. Because when you understand who you are, you're going to know what you want. Like you mentioned, there's so many influences. Like Instagram power couples are beautiful. Like they're like the most amazing thing to look at, and you just daydream like, oh my God, inshallah, like I hope I have, you know, this amazing, you know, looking wife or husband and we're a power couple. What we do have to understand that social media is an illusion. I love social media, but we do have to understand that people only post what they want you to see. And that is what is causing a lot of issues with understanding what it means to pick a good spouse. And so what we are doing is we're confusing our checklist, right? Checklist is like, either you want somebody who is like tall, dark, handsome, has a beard, makes over this much money, has this kind of house, drives this kind of car, is really stylish, has a beautiful smile. Those are all superficial dunya things. How many beautiful people have we seen, or even beautiful models, and then you'll hear someone say, oh yeah, I met them, they were the rudest person I've ever seen. And so you have to sit down. If you meditate, go into a meditative state where you're just alone in your thoughts and think about what does it mean to have a good life partner. Life partner is very different from having like just somebody you want to date or marry. Life partner means somebody who is going to grow with you spiritually, right? Somebody who is going to really elevate your soul, right? They say in Islam, marriage is completing your deen. What does that mean? They're completing your soul. They're completing you and making you whole. And once you're able to come to that list where how is he when they talk to others? How do they treat the waiter when we go out to dinner? how do they view Allah? Are they fearful, or are they cocky about the dunya, that they have so much money or they have so many material things? So look at what makes somebody, like the way you look at a friend. If you had a friend who was obsessed with things, obsessed with external things, and that's, you know, they're like, oh, did you see her car? Did you see her bag? Oh my gosh, she got those pants at Primark, whatever you guys have that there. You know, like that kind of. And then, you know, then you're like, oh, I only really want to date someone with a designer things or talk to someone with designer things. You realize people who use things as a front for their personality are actually so empty and lost inside. So sit down and make a list and understand what you're looking in a life partner. And that's the best advice I can give to you. Redefine what it means to have a partner and what marriage means. Because too many of us are in love with the wedding, but not the marriage. And all of the reality hits post-marriage when you realize you looked at all the superficial things and now you're home and the guy's not home or the girl's not home. And they don't prioritize you, they're prioritizing the dunya. So really look at someone who's God-fearing and really centers deen and dunya in a balance so that they can help you grow and you can help them grow.
That is so on point. I could not have said that better myself. I love that. That is so amazing and profound. And to hear an amazing Muslim, young, talented, brilliant mind say this, I hope that everybody's hearing and taking note, because I certainly am being reminded myself. And when it comes to the parents that are trying to set you up, I know you have a few stories for me about this as well, Farwah. Are they really clued up as to today's day and age? As much as we are living in the West with our Muslim values, we do need to also step up in time with the way in which we have to meet and, you know, sort of mingle with people. It's not just like a checklist, like you said, but even our parents, are they even actually in line with this? I mean, what is the dating scene like out there if it's not online? You know, what is your experience on this? What is your thoughts, Farwah?
I've been very blessed to have parents who are very open-minded. They're very understanding, but it took time for my family and other families to get to this understanding where you can't just select a spouse based off of a checklist. Because for Muslim families, the biggest want is, you know, like reputation, are they financially stable, and like, do they come from a good family, right? And so they have these expectations, and not my parents specifically. I'm talking about a lot of other families, because I've met a ton of girls who tell me these things, and we have to make the parents understand and the matchmakers understand that it is not a checklist. Just because somebody has a good job, comes from a good family, and you know, they have like, I don't know, I've met so many people who are like, oh, this guy has like 3 degrees. And I'm like, but is he nice? You know, so it's like, we don't prioritize qualities of an insan, like qualities of a, like I said, a life partner. And we're so busy looking at dunya things. This is again, going back to that, right? So what if someone has a big car, big house, nice car, and they have a great job? Do they know how to respect you? Do they know how to love you? Do they know how to respect your parents? Do they respect you in public and in front of their family? How do they treat people they don't know? And most importantly, where do they prioritize the deen on the list? Because when looks fade, the only thing left is your soul, is your personality. You have to understand that person's essence. And that's what I think where the heads are butting with parents and young Western Muslims, or even young Muslims, is that we want to take time to get to know somebody for the qualities of their personality and not just the superficial things. And, you know, for a lot of parents and matchmakers, they're like, I don't understand what the problem is. He has everything you're looking for. And I'm like, yeah, I spoke to him on the phone and he was so rude. And they're like, and I'm like, what? So, you know, I think we all need to redefine what it means to find a life partner. And it's not just about having a checklist of reputation, money, and status.
You've given us so many tips and I love it. And we are going to continue after a break. We'll be back shortly. And we've also got some WhatsApp messages that are coming through. Please do keep sending them in. And I also would love to take more callers. We have got time. We will be back in a few minutes. Please do stay tuned as we are going to continue with this conversation. And we have much more to discuss. And I look forward to seeing you shortly. Inshallah, we'll see you in a few moments. Take care, and we'll be back soon. Take care.
With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live. With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by singlemuslim.com. I'm loving the conversation and we have come to the final part of the show, but we do have time for more callers and questions. And I really appreciate all of you taking time out to actually talk to us today and actually give all your comments and, lots of questions and queries. It's really important that we do have this because at the end of the day, we are here for you in order to serve you, to help you through your journey of finding a spouse. We have had some questions on WhatsApp, which I'm going to read to you, Farwah. And this is for you. I kept saying actually that you're young. So someone's wondering, how young are you, if you're willing to tell? As well as, is it difficult being hijabi, as well as in a good way? How is it okay or what are the ways to approach, for a guy to approach a young lady when it comes to dating? So you can answer those questions, whichever form you want, if you're comfortable.
Okay, so the first question is how young am I? Do I want to see my age? I guess you can look me up and then you'll know how old I am.
Okay,
so
cool, fine.
I recently turned 30, so I just left my 20s. Probably best year of my life being 30, honestly, even though so many people said good luck getting married now. There's also a huge stigma around age in Muslim culture, which I just do not understand. But anyways, that's another conversation. And then, is it difficult being a hijabi? So I'm going to be honest with you. I've only been wearing hijab for a little over a year. I had made a huge life choice to put it on, and it actually, career-wise, has been, alhamdulillah, good. Socially, it's been amazing. Marriage-wise, it's actually been difficult because matchmakers are actually telling me that it's going to be harder for me to meet a partner or a spouse because I wear hijab, because guys don't like girls who wear hijab. And that's not true, because so many of my friends are hijabis and they get married, but I think it's just something that it's again a cultural thing. And I think it's really I don't want to call any cultures out, but I think it's like a Pakistani, Indian, Bengali kind of thing where they think that that's not like the look that you should have. And then Arabs are more like, oh, she wears hijab, or like, mashallah, beautiful, I love it. So I think that it's a cultural thing, the whole hijab topic. But in my situation, it has not been difficult. If anything, I think it's really allowed me to be even more authentic to who I am. And it's really aligned my energy and my soul. And the last question was, how do you approach a female? I think there's multiple ways you can do this. I think the first way is, obviously, okay, I'll just say like the halal way, which whatever, you can do it this way, which is obviously contacting someone who knows the girl and then having them kind of be like, hey, are you single? I have somebody I was thinking about. And that's like one great way, right? And if you
don't you think in the West, it's quite hard because the thing is, sorry to interrupt you, but the thing is, as we're talking about the Western influence, it's very normal for people to just go up to people and just speak. Now, is that seen as disrespectful? I guess, a lot of people have asked this question before, because guys do find it difficult because, they might be looked upon as someone who is disrespectful just because they're coming up to talk to you. But is it really disrespectful? Are we actually changing with the times? Is is that like Islamic or non-Islamic, or is there such a thing? Is it a bad thing if a guy just comes up to you and say, look, I looked at you, I saw you, and I was just wondering if you're single. This is not basically a chat up line, by the way. I'm just saying, okay, that this is how something might actually come across and say, I just thought, are you, able to talk? I'd love to get to know you, whatever it may be. Like, is that even a wrong thing? Is that not even allowed? Does it have to be through a third party? Is that very difficult, even if you're actually standing in a restaurant, or, if you're in college, or if you're at work even, and you see somebody that you like? Because as much as attraction is not the be all and the end all, we do sort of tend to navigate and connect with people that we are having that kind of, attraction towards. And that's the first thing that we do see. And we want to, know more and get the interest. What's your thoughts on that?
So this is where I struggle a little bit, because I feel like it's very personality based, right?
Yeah, true.
You're very outgoing and extroverted, and someone comes up to you and they're like, hey, like, I want to get to know you. I would be like, oh, wow, okay, like, in what sense? But then you're also like, okay, like, can you give me some space? Like, I feel kind of not attacked, but I feel very like, whoa, like, where did you come from? And then you could have someone who's super introverted and they get like, oh my God, I'm so shy. Like, thank God someone walked up to me, right? Or they could be like, oh my God, what a creep. So you want to be very gentle with the way you approach a female, because you have to kind of feel out her personality. I would definitely start a natural conversation and eventually lead into like, hey, like, it was really nice chatting with you. Do you want to exchange phone numbers? Is kind of strong, maybe like another form of contact. But again, this really goes off of personality. Some of my friends are very like, they would love for someone to walk up to them, ask them for their phone number, they exchange numbers. Some people like the whole Instagram, right? Like sliding into your DMs in a halal way. So sliding into DMs, I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's a great way to get to know someone, but you also have to be like respectful and patient with the person. Because I've had people slide into my DMs and it's very aggressive. It's like, talk to me. What's your number? Like, are you single? What do you do? And I'm like, excuse me, like, who are you? Yeah. I don't know. Just coming.
Absolutely. No, that's so true. We do have another WhatsApp message, Farwah. I love what you said so far, actually, and we do getting a lot of interest here. And the message reads, Mashallah, Farwah, may Allah reward you. Would you prefer to meet a guy in person, real life, or a dating app way? What is important with a guy? And is it the connection and the vibe? So I guess you've kind of answered it to a certain extent with regards to personality, and I do agree with that. But what is your thoughts on this so far? Because, it is a lot of social media interactions right now, but is that really an issue, or is it the way in which you approach? Do people, guys or girls, both need to understand how to connect with people and have that communication skill in order to come across that they are not intrusive, they're not rude, they're not sort of in a particular way? How would you like to be addressed and approached? Was it real life or dating app or some sort of like DM? And in that way, the language, maybe we need some, real life tips here as well.
So first thing I want to say, when you are approaching someone in person, like, always start by like just being very general and nice with the conversation and feel out the personality. If someone is like not really like vibing with you, like, don't force yourself on them to like be like, talk to me, text me, what's your number? Because the more you push something in someone's face, and this goes for matchmakers and even parents who are listening, if your son or daughter is not showing interest in someone you want them to talk to, don't force them to constantly be in communication with this person, because they're actually going to rebel, or they're going to be so turned off by the suffocation that they're not going to go and talk to that person. And it may be that that person's a great individual, but the way the situation was presented to them or brought to them could trigger them or turn them off. dating apps are also great, but it's really sometimes hard to tell a personality after a few texting back and forth. You know, it's nice to text someone, and then when you feel comfortable, you move to maybe a phone call, and then maybe a FaceTime. And then if you feel like things are going somewhere, like you can decide to meet in person. And that's one way to do it. And then a lot of times naturally, right? Like you go to an event, you go to a wedding, and you see somebody there and the conversation starts. So it's really about what life brings you. With COVID, it was really all virtual. And somehow like so many people got married during COVID. So clearly that was a great way to meet people. But we also have to be mindful of not rushing the qualities of a life partner and jumping into, which is another issue now, is divorce. Divorce rates have skyrocketed in our communities because there's been unrealistic expectations of what a spouse should be, and unrealistic expectations of parents and matchmakers of forcing the timeline. And so we have to also be mindful of that.
You know, you've raised so much, and we could really easily go for another hour, but unfortunately we have come to the end of the show. We do have a few more minutes, and I want to give you the time and space to actually maybe close with a few statements that would take away, because you've raised so much issues. And I think people need a moment afterwards to even go back and, you know, rewatch this and take notes and rethink some of the things that you said. So in a couple of minutes, would you sort of, you know, give us some sort of takeaway before we end?
Yeah, of course. So I thought we were going to do it in a few minutes, but it's right now.
It's right now.
Sorry. So my advice to everyone out there, one is to understand who you are and be authentic to yourself. If you are unsure of what you believe in, ask questions. Take time to reflect. And like Prophet Muhammad said, 1 hour in silence and solitude is equivalent or greater than 70 years of worship. That is a huge statement. You have to disconnect and reconnect with your internal self to find out who you are. Once you understand who you are, you will understand who Allah is, and you will understand the path and the course He is taking you down. When you do that, you will be able to really select a life partner and understand who will really balance you and align with you to help you grow. And I know being influenced by Western culture is so hard. And like we said, Western culture is amazing. There's so many great things to take away from it. But we have to understand that there's a fine line. And when you are confident in who you are only going to be respected, and you're going to become very attractive to people because of your personality. So be strong and be authentic. It is only going to bring more people to respect you and really flock to you. Like, you'll be honey and there'll be flies and they'll just come and stick to you. But you have to really understand who you are and never feel ashamed of anything you've done. Remember, Allah is the most merciful and the most forgiving.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. From a beautiful voice, mind, and person. I'm so honored and pleased to have you tonight, Farwah. Thank you so much for everything that you've said today and shared. Thank you to all the callers, to the viewers, everybody streaming from all over. And also, I want to say a really welcome all of you to, you know, this amazing show, which inshallah we will continue. Thank you from here at the British Muslim team, and we hope to see you soon. And have a lovely evening. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With 3 million members searching, singlemuslim.com proudly sponsors Single Muslim Live.